welcome to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. I'm your host, Louis Padian. I hope that you're doing well and are enjoying the podcast and the topics we've covered so far. These podcasts are released every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so be sure to subscribe wherever you are listening to be kept up to date. So today we'll be covering 4 ways to avoid a boring diet. And this is often one of the things that lets people down when they try to eat a bit healthier, is actually they go to a very boring and bland diet, which potentially has its benefits, but often is one of the reasons why people give up. They feel that healthy eating has to be boring, when often it's very much the opposite. We can make a really, really nourishing and diverse diet really enjoyable, really flavorful, and that will definitely help with people being able to stick to these dietary changes by increasing their fruit and veg, eating lean protein, being more mindful of their calories. All these wonderful things make it much more sustainable long term. So these 4 ways are just 4 simple things that I often advise to clients and patients that I work with. First of all, embrace inclusivity, not exclusivity. Now, what do I mean by that? Often people exclude certain foods or food groups from their diet, often things that they feel to be unhealthy or bad foods, but of things that they potentially enjoy. And actually, that's probably not the way to go about it. You might have heard me speaking about this inclusive approach where we're trying to include all these wonderful things in our diet. It's just finding the right amounts. Fad diets are very, very renowned for this, and often it leads to people just really, really craving certain foods. So for example, if you feel that you have to cut out chocolate to eat a bit healthier, actually a thing might be that we need to moderate it a bit better, because including your diet more frequently in smaller portions might stop you from overeating on it and going to town. But if we take it out of your diet completely, you'll probably crave it more often, because these foods are delicious, they taste nice. So actually us working in a way that allows you to include it in your diet and enjoy it mindfully in moderation and achieve your goals is the best way forward. There are no bad foods. There are foods that potentially we need to moderate, or foods that we need to have a look at the amount that we're having and the frequency that we're having them. But there's no sort of foods that are going to cause you to be unhealthy, cause you to gain weight. We need to have that diversity. Yes, there's fruits and vegetables, lean protein, there's lots of fiber, there's hydration we need to be considerate of. But these foods that I sort of label foods for the soul, the chocolates, the sweets, the cakes, have lots of health benefits around social health, mental health, physical health, emotional health that we've covered in previous episodes. So we don't want to neglect that at all costs, just trying to be mindful of our calories, just trying to restrict our diet and avoid these foods. And eventually, you'll probably find that if you have this approach, develops a better relationship with food, with those foods in particular, reduces stress, and can help promote a more mindful approach to your overall eating and well-being. So first of all, embrace inclusivity, not exclusivity. Second of all, on a similar note, but a different topic altogether, is try to be flexible. Remember, life happens. If you've got a very, very particular meal plan, and this is one thing that I often see a lot of PTs or transformation coaches very guilty of, is they say you must eat these foods at these times. It's a very boring, bland diet, which we covered in the last one. There's foods that aren't very enjoyable to have all of the time, and the enjoyable foods are nowhere to be seen. But having an air of flexibility with a persistent approach to your goal is the best way forward. That's where meal plans fall at the wayside. People turn up at a event, something happened at work, they can't eat their meal when they're meant to have it, they don't have access to those foods, and they go, well, if I can't eat that, well, I might as well hit the fuck it button. When actually we need to have a more flexible approach to how we're eating that will allow you to feel less stressed, but also allow you to achieve your goals and actually enjoy the process as well. So things that I'd encourage with clients that other health professionals who don't know much about nutrition or don't know much about coaching might say are bad things to do. Ready meals. Having ready meals in the freezer is a great way to have the air of flexibility, because there's nights I turn up and had something to dinner that probably going to take half an hour. I'm either starving or I can't be bothered. And 1 or 2 nights a week, we might go, right, let's just stick this in. Or it might be a meal that I've cooked previously and is sort of extra in a batch. Or there might be options from a takeaway that we might have that are slightly better and more healthier options than what people might usually choose, but they are foods nonetheless that just take away the stress and have that flexible nature to it and allow us to enjoy it, maybe not being perfect, but remember, we're not trying to be perfect, we're just looking for progress. So for example, if I'm
having a night in and I want a pizza, I might not necessarily order a Domino's or a Pizza Hut. I might just have a pizza in the freezer that is probably, well, if you're looking at the gluten-free range, probably just as good as the options that we can order in, but probably a lot more mindful on my calorie front as well. So instead of having a pizza that's probably got 2,000 calories in, having one that's 700, and yes, it's probably not as flavorful, might be if it's gluten-free, but it allows me to eat in line with my goals, where I'm not blowing a load of calories on food that tastes really nice but isn't in line with my goals long term or my values. So having this flexible mindset and approach allows you to think on the fly. It allows you to adapt to how you're feeling, but still embrace that progress that we want, but also live life as well and accept that life's going to happen. It's not going to go to plan. It rarely does. So being aware of things might change or having options there, and that flexibility will definitely allow you to bend with it rather than break. So third on the list is looking at new flavors and cookbooks. These are something that I often speak to patients and clients around as well, is trying to get inspiration for different cuisines, different flavors, different foods that you might not usually have, because that diversity in that range of flavors, textures and tastes can be really, really something to look forward to. And there might be ones that you try once and you go, well, that was okay, but I probably wouldn't go again because the ingredients might not be that accessible. It might have taken longer than you'd like. It might be a bit fiddly, and that's okay. But there will be a few that you go, actually, that'll probably be something that I'll have again and again. It's tasty. It's fairly straightforward to make. It's something that I enjoy eating and something that I can have probably frequently. And when it ticks all those boxes, it's definitely something that we want to encourage. So trying new cookbooks, trying new cuisines, going out and trying different foods from around the world can be a really, really eye-opening experience, but also allow people to not get bored with their diet, which is the main thing that we're discussing. So we don't want people to stick within one lane, having a few different options from a few different cuisines. So you might have Italian one night, you might have French dish, you might have an African dish, you might have an Asian dish. All these different ones that we can pair up adds to that diversity and things that you're probably going to be looking forward to, and they all have different sort of roots and flavors running through them. So again, something that I highly encourage. Some of the cookbooks that I'd recommend, that I often recommend to clients and patients, is some of the Jamie Oliver books are really good, especially the 5 ingredients ones, 30-minute meals. We live in a day where time is usually short. So having stuff that's quite simple and straightforward to make but really flavorful is a huge win. And those are some of the ones that we might sit down during the week when we're planning our food shop and go through a few different cookbooks. One or two of them might be from Jamie Oliver's because they're just brilliant. Another one that I'd recommend is Jack Monroe. She's not really well known, but you might have heard of her, but a lot of people haven't. And she's all around budget cooking, getting really, really nice meals, really balanced, nutritious meals on a budget. And she's got 3 or 4 books that are fantastic and I'd highly recommend. If you're looking for high protein meals, Scott Baptiste's got some really good high protein recipes. So he's got probably about 6 or 7 different cookbooks that you can download online, which are brilliant. If you're looking for simplicity, potentially looking at some student cookbooks or one-pot meals, just for that simplicity and that quick ease, that if you haven't got great cooking skills like myself, then they're just really, really easy to follow through. And last but not least, obviously, if you look in the description below, you'll get access to my recipe guide, that 5-day meal plan that will give you a range of recipes to work with that are really flavorful, nutritious, and quite easy to make as well. So definitely worth checking that out. Last but not least on the list, and I've touched on it already, but this sort of draws everything together, and is prepping ahead. Planning and prepping your meals is almost a secret weapon. If you can put away half hour, an hour to prepare your vegetables, put them in the freezer, or just prep some meals in advance, it doesn't take twice as long to cook twice the portion of the same meal. But that's you looking after future, which is an element of self-compassion, which is really, really beneficial as well. So having the time, putting time aside to see the benefits of preparing a meal ahead of time, preparing your breakfast for a couple of days ahead, preparing meals for the week and stuff that will freeze really well, can really, really help with saving time in the future. And also, like I said, when you turn up and you can't be bothered to cook that evening, you had a really rough day at work, you had to stay late, the traffic's been rubbish, all these things where you don't fancy sitting down and cutting your onions, you don't fancy prepping all your food and spending 45 minutes over the cooker. Actually, having something in the freeze that you prepared previously can be a really, really good, straightforward option, and it's past you looking after future you. So simple things like prepping your veggies, as I've said, marinating sort of your foods like your proteins can be really, really good, and cooking grains in bulk are really good ways to get ahead. And even buying some prepped food as well can be really, really useful. So buying your frozen veggies, buying your frozen chopped vegetables like your garlic or your onions or peppers, Just a really, really way to save time in the future. Yes, they might be slightly more expensive than the fresh version, but probably keep a lot better and saves you some time and effort as well. It also gives you a real good time to think about what you want to eat that week and prepping and planning ahead. Often what we would do is before we do our food shop, we'd sit down and go, right, so what meals do you want to cook this week? What have we got in? And I've got a food shop sort of guide that is really, really useful and walks you through all different stages of it, of checking your cupboards, planning your meals out, planning what's actually macronutrients within these, protein, fats, carbs, potentially writing down some recipes, having a look at the different sections of the kitchen as well with regards to your cupboards, your fridge, your freezer and countertop stuff, and seeing what you've already got in. One of the other things that can save you a lot of time and money is being aware of that, what you've actually got in before you go to the shops, and pairing those up with one or two purchases that you get at the shops to make a meal. The amount of times before I started planning that I'd turn up at the shops and realise that I'd already bought the curry powder or this seasoning or this spice or this food 2 or 3 times over that sit in the cupboard, the fridge or the freezer, and hadn't bothered to check, and it's just wasting money away, when actually we can save a bit of money and use what we've already bought. And it also helps you with checking the dates, making sure stuff's in date, making the most or use of stuff that's potentially going to go off soon, and it just makes things a lot more straightforward having this planned and prepped routine in there. So those are the 4 tips, which are being inclusive, not exclusive, being flexible in your approach, getting inspired by new cookbooks and new flavors, new cuisines, and then also meal prepping. Remembering that your diet isn't a punishment. It shouldn't be boring. You should look forward to your food. And this is one of the things that people often associate with losing weight, getting to a healthy weight, or getting fitter, all these things. It has to be a slog, it has to be boring, when actually it really should be something that you look forward to and really fills your cup, that actually I've got a really nutritious meal that I enjoy all the textures, flavors and tastes, but actually is in line with my goals as well and can be really, really exciting. So remember to use these 4 tips, build these sustainable, healthy habits, and watch it improve not only your outcomes for your goals, but also your relationship with food and your diet. Having a really positive relationship with food that you eat, and something that we do frequently, have it multiple times a day, having a really positive relationship and looking forward to those meals can drastically improve just your day-to-day quality of life through flavor, having more flexibility, feeling more nourished, and improving your well-being.
So there you have it. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. If you have any questions, queries, or would like to reach out to me, please do. I am at Louis Padian Nutrition, which is at LOUISPADIAN Nutrition on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all other social media platforms. If you're looking for support in achieving your goals and living a healthier, happier, and more balanced life in the process, click the link below and inquire about working with me. Remember to subscribe to the Balanced Approach podcast wherever you're listening for more insightful episodes, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.